Well, a very good afternoon to you all. Welcome to our Coaching Cafe. It's Natalie Ashdown here with you. Welcome if you're listening to this live. And if you're listening to this live, happy Friday, everybody. And if you're not, well, happy days to you as well. So, welcome to our Coaching Cafe today. We're talking about resilience. And what does that even mean right now? So, I look forward to you jumping in and sharing your ideas with me. Before I begin, as always, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners and the custodians on the lands on which we meet today and their continuing connection to the land, waters, and communities of Australia. And we pay our respects to them and to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and to anyone who might be on the line who is from an Aboriginal Torres Islanders descent. So our agenda for today, oh, by the way, I used to have my professional photo there. I thought I'd just put up a photo of me. This is what I look like at the moment with heaps of wonderful flip charts behind me. So I'm in full Zoom mode, obviously, to deliver training with flip charts and everything. So I thought, oh, that's a bit more realistic photo of what life looks like at the moment. So today we're looking at what does resilience, what does it even mean? How can we as coaches, as leaders, as managers tap into our resilience in order to then lead our teams? And let's take a look at some coaching questions that we might be able to ask around that. So as I always explain, welcome back to all the regulars. I love Fridays with you, and I love coming on the line. There's heaps of people come on the line and regularly, so welcome. We are all about creating a community. If you're new to the Coaching Cafes, welcome to you as well. We're about creating shared learning experiences, thought-provoking conversations. So the way that you can interact with myself and the group is by typing a message into the chat box, and I'd be really keen today to hear your thoughts around resilience and coaching people around resilience and what it really means. So please feel free to start hitting that chat box and I'll pick up your comments as we go along. Of course, if you're collecting your ICFC CEUs, yes, these webinars are delivered free to you, and you can just contact us at support if you'd like to pick up your professional development certificates there. So I've been talking to a number of clients actually, and we've been having these conversations around resilience. And one client in particular said, we really need our teams to be demonstrating more resilience. And I agreed with the person, and we were talking about what does that really mean? And we were having this great conversation about it. But then I realized later when I was thinking about it, I'm like, what does it really mean to be resilient and to show and to demonstrate more resilience during this time, like during these COVID times when a lot of us, from Melbourne, like if you're in Victoria, we're still in hard lockdown. Others have gone back to work. Most people are still working from home, but in some states, they've been able to, certain services, get back to work or get back to the cafes or something like that, out to dinner, whatever it might mean. So, and I'm finding that because people haven't had breaks, they haven't taken holidays, they've kind of worked through, and we had a tough Christmas, with bushfires and everything. We've found ourselves, goodness me, I'm booking meetings in October. We found ourselves, towards the end of the year, and people needing to demonstrate resilience. So it's been an interesting conversation about how we as coaches, as leaders, as managers bring out our own resilience, deal with our own challenges, and then lead our teams. So that's where I started to do a little bit more of a think about it, a little bit more of a talk about it. And that's where this Coaching Cafe has originated from. So when we go back to the definitions of resilience, what does it really mean? Well, if I go back to the strengths definitions, like I come from a strength scopes point of view, and look at the psychologists and what they're saying, then what it means is effectively dealing with setbacks and overcoming difficult challenges. So it's not just, kind of sucking it up, princess. It's actually, how do we effectively deal with setbacks? How do we effectively, over time, continue to overcome the difficult challenges? So that's kind of the definition that we settled on. And when I was looking about that and going back to the research again about what it really means, I was actually reflecting on I was actually reflecting on a little moment that I had during the week. And for those of you that have caught up with our last two coaching cafes, we were talking about momentum. We're talking about how momentum trumps motivation. So keep up with the momentum. We're talking about breaking big tasks down into little. There's lots about, physics lessons even that we were giving over the last two coaching cafes. And then how we can break that procrastination and binging kind of cycle as well to keep our momentum going. And so that's where this elephant and the mouse has come from. But I had a moment during the week where, just out of the blue, I was working. For those of you that know me, I'm working on my doctorate, and I had a moment during the week. I'm sitting there, and it's really, really late at night, and I just started thinking, I can't do this. Like, I'm trying to get a breakthrough. I'm hoping that the academic fairies will visit me and sprinkle me with fairy dust so I can say something intelligent. And I just thought, I can't do this. It's too big. And all of a sudden, like, a tear started to come. Like, I'm actually feeling like I need to have a bit of a cry about this. And for a couple of moments there, I just thought, I can't do this. I can't make this intellectual breakthrough that's going to, make the massive difference. And I just thought it was all too big. So it was like, it was a big elephant, and it was all too big, and the tears started to flow. And, if any of you had been around, you would have been coaching me, and it would have been, whatever, over in a second. Anyway, so it was later in the evening, but it wasn't before curfew. So I was able to actually get out and go for a walk and go for a bit of a run and kind of change my perspective. And when I came back after the endorphins had kicked in, I was much clearer, etc., etc. But I thought about, when I was preparing for this, webinar, I actually thought about that moment, and I thought, what happened in that moment, and what's that got to do with resilience? And yes, you could have said, well, it was a build-up of stress or something like that, and the tears started to flow. But what was it in that moment that I needed that I could relate then to this idea about resilience? And what I started to think about is, for me, resilience, and you can share what you think about this now as well. For me, resilience is all about, how do we call upon our resources? So to effectively deal with setbacks and challenges, we have all these resources within us, and we have all these resources around us. And I think this is the most powerful thing that we can do as coaches, is, and I feel almost emotional when I think about this as well, is the best thing we can do as coaches right now is help our clients tap into their resources, internal resources that they've got inside of them, and then the resources that they've got all around them. And if we're calling on our resources as leaders and as managers, and bringing that to the forefront, I think that's what we actually need right now. And for me personally, that's the definition of resilience. And I think when I was thinking about what happened, over that essay, I wasn't calling on my resources. I was sitting there feeling miserable about myself, saying, I'm never going to get this. Like, I'm never going to understand this. I wasn't saying, you're too dumb. I'm just like, I can't do this. I'm just not going to be able to do this. And that's when, I felt very sad. Oh, thank you, Tom. He says he's glad to hear that you have moments too, Nat. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Mark. You're wonderful too. He says, I'm glad you're feeling better, Nat. I believe the step is acknowledging that you may need more resources, or that you're feeling overwhelmed. Yeah, and David, thank you. He says, yes, totally. It always comes from within, doesn't it? And it's funny, isn't it, that sometimes we, as leaders, as coaches, as managers, we forget this. And so I think that's what I came back to, and that's what I want to offer you. And feel free to jump in and tell me what you think about this as you go. Thank you. You're lovely, looking after me. So for me, calling on our resilience is exactly what you've said, Mark. It's about acknowledging or being mindful about what's happening. So in order for us to call upon our resources, it's kind of sitting in the moment for me and acknowledging what's happening. So that's what I managed to do when I went out on the run. I just ran. Um, I just, mind you, when I'm saying running, I'm like a bit of a hack, as you know. So I just ran and I just was in the moment, acknowledging that this is how I'm feeling, that this is what's going on. And that's very important, I think, from a like a first step point of view. The next thing, as you know, and look at the good coaching questions that are coming out of this. It's about what's focusing on what I can control or what's in my control. So people, and this is not rocket science to any of you, I can see the great coaches on the line, you know, but helping ourselves and helping our clients focus on what is in their control and what they can control is one of the most important things I think we can do as well. So when we're calling on our resources, or in order to call upon resources, focusing on what's happening now, focusing on what I am in control of, not what's out of my control. So what was out of my control is I couldn't access a resource that I absolutely felt that I needed, and I needed to contact the library, and it's too late to contact the library. And there you go. So what's in my control? What can I actually control around this situation? And I'm talking about such a minor thing. Do you know, like I'm talking about such a minor thing compared to what other people have got going on and what other people need to call upon in terms of their resources to work through what they've got going on. So, you know, for those of you that are on the line that are dealing with really tough stuff where you need to really find that resilience from within, I am acknowledging fully that this was just a moment, and it was an insignificant moment, really. So we might be coaching people who are really needing to call upon their resources and really bring that resilience, that ability to work through what they've got going on now. And so I'm not in any way kind of making up that what I experienced was anything really. It's a blimp on the radar. So just acknowledging that right here. What we're thinking about is how do we call upon our resources in order to move forward? So I keep saying this, calling upon our resources. What is that? Like, it's about asking ourselves questions about what's within me that I can bring to this situation, and what's around me that I can bring to this situation. Who can I call upon? Who can I ask for help from? Where can I find out the information? Call it not only like human resources, but I love the idea that we can call upon our pets. You know, take the dog out for the walk. Call on the resources of our pets. Call on the resources of the environment around us. So the air, the wind in the trees. It's like they are all resources. The external environment, the pounding of the pavement, the concrete under our feet, or the grass or whatever, they are all resources we can call upon. I call upon the academic fairies, which are made up resources, but who knows, you know, maybe they can help me as well. So yeah. Thanks, Alex. That's a really lovely thing to say. She says, the moment still had importance to you and everyone is different. Yeah, yeah. And David said, yes, it comes from within, doesn't it? So yeah, if we can call upon those resources within, that's what we're talking about, and the ones around us as well. Bev, thank you. She says, I asked this question to one of my team members who was worrying about other things that were out of their control. So not just focusing on his own space, but he was worrying about a lot of things that were outside his control. Yeah, so for me, it comes back to what is our locus? What is our locus of control? What's what's the pivot of our control? And how do we focus on that rather than everything else? Because you can really get wrapped up, with everything else. The other thing I think is so important for ourselves as leaders, as coaches, to remind our clients is this idea about being kind on ourselves. So if we're being kind on ourselves, and watching out for the negative self-talk. So you heard in that tiny moment, you heard the negative self-talk. I can't do this. It's too big. I'll never get it. It's not going to work. You know, and then here come here comes some tears. So I got myself into that little loop very quickly, actually. I don't know what it was, because I couldn't get a library resource, and I went anyway. So I got myself into that loop very quickly. So catching yourself in the moment with that negative self-talk actually stops you from being in that loop. And it's kind of going, you know what, let's be kind to yourself. Let's just hang on a second. Let's just be kind. Um, and go, let's just, it's not about, okay, let's take a break, it's like, hang on a second, let's just be kind to ourselves, let's take a break, let's really like slow things down a little bit as well. Tom says it's a good reflection to know that people are coaching, maybe worrying about trivial things at times like we do. Yeah, cortisol is cortisol no matter where it's coming from. Yeah, absolutely. So we can get wrapped up in that cortisol, can't we? And then that kind of sends us into a bit of a spin. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm reminded of there's a line that every now and again I say to myself, and it's really reflecting self empathy and kindness to yourself. And I think it comes out of my meditation and mindful practice, where they use the words "dear one." They say, "It's okay, dear one." Like, and it's a really kind of comforting kind of thing to say. This too is going to be okay, and using "it's okay, my dear." It's like that comforting voice talking to yourself. It's okay, my dear. This is going to be okay. And that's where the kindness comes, and that's where we can go. All right, now when it comes to resilience, let's do the next piece. So if we're thinking to ourselves, or we're working with clients, and go, let's just slow it down a fraction here and go, okay, it's okay, dear one. What resources can we call upon? What kind of things come to mind for you? Like for you, I just needed to slow it down and call on my resources. The sort of things I thought about is, I started saying to myself, going, you know what? You've got a very big brain. um, you've been through challenging academic times before, and you've come out the other side. This is part of the process. So what I was telling myself is, this is part of the process. It's part of the growth. It's part of learning and development. So I was calling on my resources around learning and development and growth, and it's part of the process. And from that, that started to move things forward. So I wonder in that moment what we can say to ourselves, what we can call upon, and that's for me where the resilience comes. So Sebastian, thank you. He says resilience is also about how we prepare and maintain ourselves rather than just responding to situations. Yeah, thank you. We need to be proactive and develop being mindful and acknowledging our blessings. Oh, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I have been really focused on just every morning and night thinking about my gratitude, like what I'm grateful for. And I know there's a number of you that keep gratitude diaries, and I just can't emphasize that how doing things like that, it builds our resilience. I agree with you, Sebastian. Yeah. Thank you, Nandor. Says gratitude is a centering and calming practice. Yes, I agree. And I really think it builds our internal resources when we're doing that. So that's what we're thinking about as well. And keep telling me what does it mean to you? What does resilience mean? What does it mean to call upon resources? Let's hear from you. Tom says he likes to think of agility rather than resilience sometimes. It's a more of accepting word. Resilience sometimes feels like fighting. Yes, I agree with you. Sometimes resilience feels like, just suck it up, toughen up a little. Like, ages ago they used to talk about resilience. Well, resilience, what is it? People just need to toughen up. So I think that idea about thinking about being flexible, or demonstrating agility. That might be another word that gets through from a context point of view. Yeah. David shares with us now, in his office 5 days a week coaching, he has his values, his strengths, his purpose, and a motivational quote on his wall. So it's at his fingertips to call upon. Yeah, I love that. So you can just look up on your wall, David, and remind yourself about what's important. Really, what are your values? What are your strengths? What can you call upon? What's this all about? What's most important to you? So that's just see it right there in front of you. That's lovely. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Bev, that's a really fantastic question. She says, should we be looking at what we've achieved so far to get us moving forward through this difficult moment? That's a lovely question. So this is where I think the coaching questions can flow, and that's why I love Fridays, because we've got all the great coaches on the line. Is to ask those questions. So what have we achieved so far that can help us get moving forward? So acknowledging that it is a difficult moment, but let's call upon what one of our resources can be potentially what we've achieved so far. So we have banked those achievements. We've banked those feelings, those visions, those steps and tasks and the whatever it took to achieve that. So let's draw on those. You definitely need to be kind of breathing into it, I think, or just really taking a moment to think about it. Yeah. And Tom says, it's great, David. He's enjoying your idea. Lovely. So the other thing I wanted to offer you is the metaphor. David saying you're welcome. You're welcome there, Tom. So the other thing I wanted to offer you was the metaphor around the lotus, and the meditation app that I subscribe to sent out um, a blog recently about the lotus. And for those of it that's the picture that we've used. That's the picture that we've used for our coaching cafe. That's the theme for our coaching cafe. And if you catch up, by the way, I blog about this every week as well. So if you go back onto our website and you head to the blog, there's other resources that I've provided there too for you. So I've gone back to the strength scope, the psychologists and the strengths, and looked at their definitions of what resilience looks like and what are we doing if we're not demonstrating resilience. So those things that I talked about is me not demonstrating resilience. So, and there's also a couple of links that I've given there around a couple of really great TED Talks around resilience as well. I listened to quite a few TED Talks actually, and a couple of them I did not like at all. There was something about them that I didn't like. So, but there's a couple that I found that somehow resonated with me. So that's a good resource for you as well. Nandor says, draw strength from your successes and you'll be more likely to overcome obstacles if you're congruent with your purpose. Yeah, I love those words. So let's be congruent with our purpose. Let's put that in front of us, as David has said, and draw. And we're not just like skipping through the daisies, are we? We're really talking about drawing on those successes to enable us to overcome our obstacles. And that relates back to the lotus flower. And for those of you that may or may not know, the lotus flower actually most often grows in mud. Grows in swampy, muddy conditions. The roots are in thick mud and bog, and yet somehow these beautiful flowers. All you see on the surface initially is just the mud and the swamp, and then you'll see the green leaves. So you look across the lotus, like if you've ever been to like Fiji or some of these beautiful locations, you just see the green leaves. So it's just the surface that you can see, but the lotus has got its feet down in the mud, and then eventually up pop these beautiful blooms, and they'll pop up just randomly out of the mud. And I think sometimes it's the meditation thing that was sent to me is appreciating the mud as well as the leaves and the blooms. So for us, it's about appreciating and being mindful that of some of these difficult times and the challenges, and then how do we over time enable that to help us learn and grow and develop so that the blooms come. So I'm not sure. There's something about that. I'm not exactly sure, but there's something about that. There's something about the lotus grows in mud into these beautiful blooms that really resonated with me this week. So feel free to share your thoughts. I don't know whether I might be out on might be out in cuckoo la la land. I'm not sure, but anyway. Rachel, thank you. She says she believes that another component of resilience is actually going through the challenges and not avoiding them. True, true. So it's not running away from them. It's actually moving, going through the challenges, not avoiding them. And when we overcome our obstacles, we develop greater self-efficacy. And that is the belief that we have the capacity to do and achieve things. Yeah, thank you. That's lovely. Bev says it's so true. Yeah, so we can overcome our obstacles. We can grow up out of the mud. Um, believe that we have the capacity to do and achieve things. Yeah. And Mark says people get stuck in a rut or they feel like there's no escape. They have challenges, but they're not afforded the time to repair or solve. So we need to coach them to have those discussions with management. Yes, so thank you, Mark. Relating that back to coaching now. So we're going to be coaching people that are stuck in the mud, and it is about how do we help them have the conversations they need to have. How do we ask these really great questions, like just taking this slide and turning those into you can see the coaching questions there. What's happening? What can you focus on that's in your control? What is in your control? What resources can you call upon? How can you be kind to yourself? So it's taking even these 4 statements and turning them into coaching questions. And that's where we're helping people rise up out of the mud. Yeah. And it might be to have conversations with management about what they need as well. Nandor says, reflecting and learning from our failures to enable us to improve our approach and to attempt again. Yeah, yeah. David says, as per the previous comments, dislikes using the word resilience. Yeah, I think initially for a while there, I was actually resistant to the word as well. So I acknowledge that. He says it's often referred to as being binary, that you either have it or you don't. Yeah, it's like turn it on, like be resilient, be resilient. That's when I said, what does that even mean? And they're the conversations we had. He says that you either have it or you don't. It's interesting that the same strategies for building resilience are the same for building confidence. So I prefer to use this word instead. Thank you. So how do we build on our confidence? How do we build on our ability to grow, learn, and develop? Yeah, they're great questions. Lovely. Other thoughts, resources, other thoughts on resilience to share? Other great coaching questions you might use? Very keen to hear your ideas. Wonderful. Well, as always, if you have team members who need to get into coaching, we have our Leader as Coach program, and we really are encouraging our mental health first aid training at the moment as well. As you may know, I redid my mental health first aid training recently, and I have had great opportunities, 2 or 3 opportunities in the last couple of weeks to actually use that training in terms of how I have conversations with people. So if you haven't done that training, we do have them coming up, and it's a really great opportunity to connect with that. Or, as I said, bringing your teams and people around you to our Leader as Coach, which is the 2-day program. So as always, I wish you to enjoy your coaching. Next week, join me. I will be on holidays, and I am the Coaching Cafe, just so you know, for next week, is take a holiday with me. So we will be doing some mindfulness. We'll be taking a 30-minute holiday. I will actually be on holiday, so I hope you can all join in. And we'll take our theme of motivation and momentum and getting over procrastination and resilience and mindfulness, and we'll kind of bring it all together next week as well. So roll with the punches. Absolutely. Yeah. So thanks. Let's pick up these comments as we finish up. There says, thank you. Very valuable for coaches. Yeah, very valuable for us to share this experience with each other, I think, as well. And Rachel says, experience is the way you build confidence. I like to think of it as developing behavioral flexibility, like Darwin's theory of evolution. It's the individual who adapts to their environment, selecting the best thinking, the best behavior to their circumstance, and rolling with the punches, as Mark says. So thank you. That's a lovely summary, Rachel. Thank you very much. I cannot wait to call you Dr. Nat. You're very kind, Mark. Thank you. Yeah, and absolutely, David. Thank you. He says, thank you always for accepting an alternative view. There's no one way, and that's why the field is ever changing. I agree. I love that. And I'm so glad that you feel comfortable to share, because I'm not here as the font of all knowledge and this is the way it's got to be. I really come to these coaching cafes wanting to hear your thoughts, expand my thinking. Let's have the conversation. So thank you. It's a really great opportunity. All right, everyone. Happy Friday to you. As I said, if you're listening if you're listening to this live, and the coaching doctor. Thank you. That's very good of you, Mark. All righty. Well, yeah. Have a great week, everyone. Enjoy your weekends. Thanks so much for your contribution. I really get so much out of it, and I agree with you, David. This short time that we have together is really terrific. It's really awesome. So, all the best to you. Enjoy your coaching. I look forward to catching up with you shortly.